Hello and welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Bell. Today we have, back by popular demand, I got to be honest, this is our most hits that we got with Mr. Cruz, the principal of the Rockaway Meadow School, and Mr. Chris Waack, who is the principal of the Intervale School. Today I brought them back because, again, popular demand. We want to talk about leveraging student leaders. With that being said, leveraging student leaders, can you talk about leveraging student leaders at the elementary school? What does that mean?
Thanks for having us, Dr. Sutter. Appreciate
I
it.
told you. It's the fans. They want you back. They want you back.
It's my family. They've watched us about 400 times. But thank you for having us back.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think an important piece to this whole conversation is the collaborative effort that has gone into it with staff members at Rockaway Meadow School, and I'm sure Mr. Waack can speak about it over Intervale as well. So one of the first really cool ideas that came across my desk by our reading specialist, Ms. DeCaro. She had mentioned that she was looking for a way to provide additional support to kids.
So that's how leveraging student leaders came about.
Correct.
Okay.
Providing
It was
DeCaro, Miss DeCaro, and also Miss Thomas as well.
Okay.
Who's one of our special education teachers. So in looking at our student population and looking at specifically our primary grades that could use a little bit more assistance in terms of the early foundational skills for language arts and reading.
Okay.
We reached out to Parsippany High School and the National Honor Society, and Miss Julianne Sanchez was great in terms of gathering some student support and finding out through a survey who would be interested in participating in these intervention programs. So we were very fortunate that we had a good turnout of some former Rockaway Meadow students and other students that were part of the National Honor Society. Wow. And they received training by Ms. DeCaro and also by Mrs. Mead, who's another one of our special education teachers at Parsippany High School. And Mr. Satch was kind enough to record that. So the kids received this training, and then those students, at the conclusion of their day at Parsippany High School, they would come down and we would identify some students in grades K, 1, and 2 that could use some additional support with reading. And they were awesome. They used the methods that were taught to them by Mrs. Mead and Mr. Caro. And we were able to provide our students with some additional support services. So
now, those high school students, you said that they were National Honor Society kids. Was it any kid? Was it just National Honor Society kids? Do you know how that selection process worked?
So we put it out to several different groups of students. And with National Honor Society students, they needed some community service hours.
Correct, yeah.
So this provided them with that opportunity to create those hours, to get those hours.
And they drove down there themselves. They were trained.
Some drove down on their own. Some were brought by their parents.
Okay.
Some who live close to Rockaway Meadow actually walked to school as well. And we had a sign-in sheet, which was great, so that we could credit these students for the times that they showed up.
Wow, that's great.
And it turned out to be a really fulfilling program for everyone involved. And the kids were really excited to work. Our kids at Rockaway Meadow were excited to work with the older students, and the older students really got a lot of satisfaction out of working with our kids and seeing them grow.
Yeah.
So
now, have any of those high school kids asked you for recommendation letters for colleges or anything like that? Is that something that you would do for them?
Oh, I would totally do that for them. Absolutely. They haven't asked yet, but I'd be happy to do that. And we have been in communication with Ms. Sanchez at the conclusion of last year about possibly starting this a little bit earlier.
Okay. When did it start last year?
So it started in the third trimester last school year.
And
so
that
we're
date
looking
would be about
third trimester, I believe, starts what March around,
Roughly,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
And it turned out to be really successful and a fun program that we enjoyed. So that was one.
So
of
it
them.
ran from March to the end of the school year?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I sent out a survey to the students regarding possible dates that they could come out to Rockaway Meadow School. They selected the dates that they could come to Rockaway Meadow. And for the most part, they honored those dates. You know, for some of our students that were initially interested, they're also very busy outside of school, whether they had a job or some sports. So they ended up fulfilling those commitments first.
When you designed the schedule for this, how many days a week was
We
the
had it
program running?
every day.
Every day.
Yeah. And
So kids
that,
committed to the program every day.
yeah, every day.
Both at
And-
the elementary school and at that's
Correct.
great.
And I have to say that part of it was in combination with Lisa DeCaro and Shannon Mead. They were very helpful in organizing the process.
How long was the session?
Usually about half hour to 45 minutes. That's typically what an intervention should run. So, in case if our younger kids are doing their psych words, things of that nature, you kind of run through those quickly. You gather data. And with that data, we can use some of that and also include that into RTI if we need to provide the students with further support.
So our high school students came down, and who was directing them, like with what skill set that they should be reviewing with our.
So we took some feedback from the teachers that were working with the students. They would identify the students' areas in need of development, or their areas of weakness.
Sure.
And Ms. DeCaro and Ms. Mead would supervise the students. Typically in the hallway.
Right.
They would pull out the kids either in small groups or one by one, and we would run through the intervention that way.
Wow, that sounds like a great program.
It was awesome. We were very, very fortunate.
And how did you feel?
Absolutely. Dr. Sutter, one of the things I think is very unique to Parsippany is the students remember where they came from.
Sure.
Right? And we're very fortunate to have many of the high school students come back to the elementary schools and perform in some leadership roles. Mr. Cruz and I talked about some of our programs that we share. I know he was going to speak about the National Honor Society kids.
Sure.
We also have some kids in both our Target Teach program, which are teachers aspiring.
On Target Teach, can you tell them about
Absolutely.
what Target Teach is?
Absolutely. So Target Teach, I think, which I don't know of any other program like this in the state.
I'm not
honestly.
aware of one.
I'm not. And I can't take credit. I know that Christine Hild, Kelly Anderson, and Katie Vesper kind of oversee this program at the high school level. What they do is they take children or high school students at this point that are now approaching graduation and think they want to teach or think they have an interest in maybe teaching. And what I think is so great about the program is these kids have an opportunity to then reach out through their advisor to former teachers they may have had who have made an impact on their life.
Wow.
And then what's great is we've had a number of kids who have come back, who have worked in that role, gone on to become teachers in Parsippany, teachers throughout the state of New Jersey.
And you've hired a few.
And I have hired a few. We all have, right?
Absolutely.
And the other thing that's been great too is there's been a couple who have decided this isn't what I want to do, and I'm going to go another route and have been very, very successful in other areas and other professions as well. So Target Teach is one of the programs I love where we have an opportunity to bring those kids back, work with their former teachers, learn the craft, and then, eventually sometimes have them come back and give back to our community.
Wow.
The other program I just want to speak about that I'm very proud of, and again, just like with Christine, Kelly, and Katie, I can't take credit. Lori Lorenzo works a program at the high school called Work-Based Learning Project. Basically what it is Mr. Cruz and I both have some MD programs at our schools.
Sure.
Wonderful kids that go on to the high school, and then some of those kids who are in those very programs come back and work with students at Intervale, at Rockaway Meadow, at other schools throughout the district.
Yeah.
And those are just really unique, again, to Parsippany. It's great to see them give back to their own communities,
Absolutely.
their own schools, and it's pretty unique to see the connection they make with their teachers. The project-based learning program that Lori runs, she works very, very closely with Suzanne Peterson, one of her first grade teachers. Suzanne has had a kid almost every year. And we've been doing annual gatherings with those students along with Dr. Mulrooney and make an event of it. And it's just been really special. We continue to email with those kids to this day.
Yeah.
And those kids have gone on to do special things. And it's also a really good role model for those kids in those programs.
It's great because, what's happening is, as you know, Intervale, those kids go to Parsippany Hills High School, and you have Rockaway Meadow, and they're going to Parsippany High School. And yet both of these high schools are giving back to the elementary schools, and they don't forget. And I think that's testament to both you, Mr. Cruz, and also to the high school principals
No question.
who are doing a great job. Your relationship with the high school principals, can you talk about that? Like, how if you need something, what happens?
Yeah, I can speak to Matt Thompson on our side of town. He's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Anything I ask of Matt that's going to better kids, he's all for it. I mean, literally, when I call him, the response is essentially, "What can I do to help you? What do you need?"
That's great.
And because of those relationships, which you don't find in every town,
No.
it's almost become like a feeder program where then they circle back and help our kids and help our community. And it just really sets the tempo, I think, for the elementary schools, because they look forward to those opportunities. Years ago, when Todd Ricker, who's now an assistant superintendent, was the athletic director there, we had some kids who were going through some discipline issues, right? And that happens. He was welcoming some of our students as ball boys for the football games. So just that cyclical kind of community feel has been a game changer. Having been in the district quite a while, those types of programs, the ones Mr. Cruz talked about, Target Teach, the workplace programs, even simple things such as allowing kids for getting good grades or behaving well to participate at the high school level with some of the extracurricular activities have changed lives.
Yeah, it just really has. And with Ms. Carucci, can you talk about your relationship with Ms. Carucci?
Sure. Yeah. Anytime I need something, I always run like these ideas, the reading buddies or the autism awareness day. I always contact her or one of the assistant principals at Parsippany High School, and they get back to me right away. And they're just like Dr. Thompson and the team over at the Hills. All right, what do you need? Let us know what you need. We'll make it work. And they just want to be part of the action per se. The
Autism Awareness Day, you talked about that. What happens?
So Autism Awareness Day is an event that we have every April. We're looking to change the name to Neurodiversity Day. But our students in the MD-ABA program, we do a walkathon with our students. We invite district administrators to participate. And then the really cool part of this whole program is that we have our Peer Buddies program from Parsippany High come down as well, and they participate in the walkathon. And then the student leaders, they visit every single classroom at Rockaway Meadow School, and they do a presentation on what does it mean to be neurodiverse. What is neurodiversity? What does it mean to have autism? And it's very popular. The kids do a wonderful job. It's in collaboration with the MD-ABA teachers at Rockaway Meadow, and also the MD-ABA teachers up at Par High, along with the Peer Buddies advisors, who are Ms. Hakim and Ms. Hewlin. So it turns out that every year this is something that both schools really look forward to. And we use it as an opportunity to also raise a couple of funds for our program within the building. And yeah, it's been hugely popular, and it can't really take off unless we have that support from Parsippany High School.
It's just great hearing that you can leverage these kids from the high schools to help you. Can you talk about your population at your Rockaway Meadow School? You have students coming in from all walks. And how do you select students? Do you ask Ms. Carucci, we have this situation, how does that work?
So I'm very fortunate in the sense that I've had several different roles in district, right? So one of my previous roles was as a world language supervisor. So in addition to reaching out to Ms. Carucci, I will often reach out to some of the former teachers I've worked with too, and run some crazy ideas by them. And if I don't run it by them, I'll ask the teachers, usually Ms. DeCaro and Ms. Thomas, will come to me with some really great idea of, we'd love to do this for the kids that are not getting certain reading support at home. So I will say, okay, well, I worked with Ms. Delgado, and Ms. Delgado is the lead teacher of world languages at Parsippany High School. See if we can create some kind of a program that can serve some of our students. So the largest population of ESL students at Rockaway Meadow Schools, or multilingual students, are Spanish-speaking students. So we reached out to Senora Delgado, and she brought down her Spanish Honor Society students, and we participated in a ESL bilingual night reading. It was something that took place immediately after school so that we could keep the kids in school and their parents can meet us there. But the beautiful thing about it was that the students, some again that were former Rockaway Meadow students that are not native Spanish speakers and are not Spanish at all, they are absolutely fluent in Spanish. They're able to read the story in Spanish to the families. And then they follow up with either reading the story in English or having the child of the family read the story in English. So one of the other really cool aspects of this is that Ms. Thomas and Ms. DeCaro Also leverage some of the additional teachers in the building to serve as additional support throughout the day and throughout the event. But they've written a grant through the district curriculum grants that come out of Dr. Mulrooney's office.
Sure.
And this is where we're able to purchase the books not only in English, but also in Spanish for our Spanish-speaking families. So when they leave the event, they have that book that not only they can read to their child in Spanish, but now their child can read to them in English if they are looking for ways to improve their English speaking abilities. So as Chris mentioned before, Mr. Waack, the whole cyclical aspect of education and of working together with our counterparts, it's a really awesome event in that regard, that it's promoting literacy. It's getting the parents to now that may have had a little bit of hesitation to read to their child in English. They're very comfortable in reading it in Spanish. So now we're getting that literacy support in Spanish for the child, and the child can practice their English with their parents as they read the book.
It's great. I got to tell you, you guys have done a fantastic job leveraging your colleagues and the teachers. I mean, the teachers in this district are dedicated.
Absolutely.
I mean, they are good people. And I tell you, I've never heard one of them say no. Like they just don't. Like it's difficult to really find someone that says no to you.
And Bob, not to interrupt, but what I would say about that too is, I agree. I mean, our teachers across the board are incredible, and our students are amazing. And one of the things that we've seen in Intervale, and I'm sure we've seen it throughout the district, is with the middle school and high school kids doing such a great job being leaders for our younger students. Donna O'Donnell, who's our climate and culture committee chair, had about 17, 18 teachers on that committee and started to talk about what can we do right here in-house. We're really fortunate that the middle and high school are sending their students down, but many of our 4th and 5th graders are ready to take on that role. So in recent years, we've been doing more and more of that. So we now have kindergarten buddies with our 5th graders. We also have what we call leader buddies. We now have 5th graders who are giving up some of their own time to come into those MBABA classrooms and work with those children. And what I think is just really unique, and again, I credit the high school and the middle school and everything that they've provided to us to now enable us to really turnkey that right in our own house, if you will. And the climate in the schools are that much better because all of the kids are viewing the 4th and 5th graders as leaders, as role models. And it just is a grassroots and it takes over. And as a result, discipline is down. Kids are being nicer to one another. Teachers are even more vested than they were before. And it's really nice to see. And I know Mr. Cruz and I have talked about this, and we're seeing that at the elementary level more and more post-COVID.
And I'd say that's why people are moving here. They're moving here for the schools, for you guys, and for what goes on in the district. I really want to thank you guys for coming again today.
Absolutely.
To be here. I think hopefully in the future, maybe we can bring some students back in and maybe some high school students and some elementary, and we can show.
That would have a lot more views than what we've had so far. Trust me.
And we can show the audience what we're talking
That'd be
about.
great. I'd love to be great.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for all the work you do, Mr. Cruz, Mr. Waack. The best.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Beyond the Bell.